All good?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So thank you very much to the organisers for the invitation to talk about our project. And thank you as well for this great opportunity to see so many different systems and implementations of archaeological GIS in one place and the opportunity to learn from one another. So in this presentation, we're going to do three things, broadly speaking. We're going to introduce our survey project. We're going to talk about the workflows that we use for data acquisition, data storage, and data analysis. And then we're going to offer some more reflexive thoughts at the end about what we like about our systems and what, after 2 years of sort of bitter experience working with these, we might do differently if we were starting the project again tomorrow. So this paper is written together with Alexandra Cataveni and Anastasia Vasiliou, who together we three have collaborated on designing and implementing these systems. And even though I'm the mouthpiece of the paper, feel free to address questions to them as well in the discussion afterwards. So our case study today is the island of Samos, a medium-large size island in the East Aegean. Why Samos? As you know from as wide-ranging sources as Aeschylus to Pausanias, ancient authors write that this was an island rich in vine, olives, timber, stone, and it was in part through exporting these things that Samos gained international renown, and first under the archaic tyrant Polycrates, became a prime maritime power. Samos was in some ways an economic powerhouse, but we don't really know how the rural economy feeding its international networks worked. There's never been systematic work done across the wider landscape of West Samos, the area particularly rich in natural resource. To address issues of resource and landscape, and with particular interest on the first millennium BC, and to investigate the blank spot of West Samos, in 2021, we launched a 5-year research program looking at, broadly defined, the area between Mount Carvunis and Mount Kirkis in West Samos, in the area of modern-day Marithocampos in the south and Karlovacy in the northwest of the island. Our survey builds in many ways upon the work that was undertaken in the 1980s by Graham Shipley, who undertook extensive exploration across Samos. Through documentation and wider landscape studies, the aims of our project are to document possible loci diachronically of activity across the landscape, to verify and map the extent of points of interest first identified by Graham Shipley, to use material culture we find to consider possible activities, dates, and functions of sites identified, thereby elucidating the position of Marithocampos and Karlovacy within island-wide and regional networks, and with an eye on issues of resource and export discussed above, to investigate how the archaeology of West Samos can tell us more about the part this island played in Aegean and Anatolian economic networks of the first millennium. In 2022, 3 kilometers squared of the southwest basin of the island was explored by our team in the area of Marithocampos. This year in 2023, we'll explore an equivalent sample of the landscape in the northwest of the island in the basin of the modern-day city of Karlovacy. So our field walking builds on a methodology and data model used within the Panormus survey, our neighbours across the way at the Milesian Peninsula, resembling also methodologies used on Kythera, on Antikythera, and most recently in another British school project on Chios. A predefined grid of 50 by 50 metre units is drawn pre-season over our survey area. Each grid is assigned a unique reference number, and field team leaders are given 6 or 7 digit UTM coordinates for these grids. Using handheld Garmin GPS units, they locate in the field the corners of the grid that has been predefined by the GIS team. Field walker teams consist of 5 walkers spaced at 10-metre intervals. Walkers progress through this predefined unit in regular formation as far as possible. Surface ceramics are counted with all diagnostic pieces collected for analysis. Many of the grids that are walked do not end up being regular 50 by 50 metre units. Walkers note how many meters into the track they walk, information that gets relayed back to the GIS team. Information is recorded in the field on tablets through the open source data collection application KoBo Collect. KoBo Collect is a system that was designed for those working in humanitarian zones to record information in remote locations without internet connection. Data entered into forms is stored within the tablet device, and then it is uploaded onto the project KoBo server automatically when one comes within range of a stable internet or Wi-Fi connection. Forms are designed pre-season by the project data specialists, including a range of numeric, drop-down, and multiple choice questions that use fixed vocabularies aligned with standard data models, and also 1 or 2 free text fields, but we limit free text as far as possible. Forms can be adapted throughout the season as the conditions of the landscape develop, or as feedback is given from the team, particularly on the ease of usability of these forms. The system is incredibly flexible and allows for almost unlimited customization of and communication between different data fields. 4 main levels of information are recorded in the field. First, the team leader documents the landscape and general condition of the whole 50 by 50 meter tract. How is the slope? What is the erosion like? What can be seen from this area? And vital for tying the tract back to the predefined GIS grid, what was the tract's unique reference number that the team walker located with their GPS unit? Second, the walker records simply the number of ceramics they saw, the condition and visibility of their tract, and whether or not they collected diagnostic samples. Third, any features of interest found outside the tract are registered as POIs, points of interest, where one describes the nature of the landscape feature, wall, cut feature, dead scatter of pottery. As also with the leader form, a photograph is taken on the tablet and uploaded directly to the KoBo server. Fourth, a basic documentation is made of any diagnostic ceramic objects that are destined to be taken to the Pythagorean Museum. This is only a very basic finds registration purely for documentation purposes in case an object gets detached from its label during transit. The full study and analysis of pottery is done in the museum during study periods using another specially designed form, but a working documentation at least allows us to see how preliminary patterns are emerging in the field, on which I'll say a little bit later. All of these forms have common fields referencing tract numbers, walker numbers, and object numbers. So this gives potential for all types of data collected in the field to be linked to one another. When the team return from the field, they upload their data straight to the KoBo server. Using information from the leader and walker forms, the GIS specialist returns to the pre-drawn grid and sketches, and they sketch out accurately the shape of the tracks and walker lines that have just been covered in the day. When we upload the data to the KoBo server as well, we also have an automatic audit trail for any changes that walkers or leaders have made into their forms throughout the day. And all of that information is timestamped. So that is an important social and human history to the project's intellectual output that we can trace as well. The GIS grids are labeled with the running track numbers given in the field, which will allow for the linking of the spatial data and the field data. On a daily basis, the GIS specialist also cleans data as it comes in and discusses with team members to resolve issues regarding where they walked, for example. We also build into the analysis here some human factors that we're tracking as well. So, for example, each walker who participates in the survey has individual statistics that they're generating all the time. For example, my own statistic might be that I see more in the field than someone else here. I might bring more rock sherds into the apotheke than you do as well. And when we're calculating all of our distribution maps, we use these personal walker statistics to see how they affect our patterns. So we'll simply, the more data we have about a human, the better the archaeology ends up being. Off season, all of the clean canonical data is pulled from KoBo Collect, archived as CSV, and also migrated to a FileMaker database to facilitate study of the landscape and allow us to move more seamlessly between leader, walker, landscape, and object data. KoBo Collect is just for the acquisition and holding of the data as it appears in the season. It's not for analysis, and it's not a long-term data storage solution. Bi-weekly, during the main field season, we tie together the KoBo data and the GIS data to visualize working plots. to assess the density of ceramics in Walker lines, and to look at basic patterns in diagnostic pottery distribution. Because of the born digital nature of our data, these are relatively simple plots to produce on season, if only with a bit of manual linking required. The ease of connecting our spatial and database information facilitates us in producing plots fairly rapidly. We had working visualizations within just 1 week this year of the field season finishing, and with all of the pottery for 2022 now fully studied, even now only 8 months after the survey, we have more advanced and preliminary analytical plots for our data, enabling us to work now on a first report article of the data. So within our project, we'd say that we're quite satisfied with the KoBo Collect workflow, and we reflect here a little bit on the benefits and challenges that this has afforded us. As highlighted already, this born digital workflow of creating in parallel tabular and spatial data sets that we can link with relatively little cleaning or processing is very effective for ensuring the speed of generating and disseminating results. And it's not just the format of the data set that enables this, it's also to do with the content. Through a systematic use of drop-down menus, restricted data entry, and fixed vocabularies, we ensure not only that there is a common and consistent language and data entry process across the team, but also that the extent of cleaning and harmonization that the data need before linking to other data sets is fairly minimal. We also note that these fixed vocabulary lists have been very useful for empowering student volunteers in the project, allowing those who are relatively new to archaeology and to fieldwork to get to grips with the process much quicker. Through the flexibility of KoBo Collect in helping us to produce regular data plots, spatial data analysis becomes a reflexive part of our survey methodology. We have daily meetings between the directorial GIS and field leader teams, and those plots that we produce help to inform ongoing strategy in the field. Production of plots throughout the season is great for team morale too. We attempt to show the full team the working data at least once a week. This helps to give ownership. I don't know what's just happened there. Your screen sharing is paused. Let's try that again. This helps to give the team ownership of the field work across all participants. And in a more practical sense, a close engagement with the field data as it comes out helps us to catch problems early in the field. Cleaning data becomes one of our more routine daily tasks, not something that happens after the fact off season. We also negate the need for one step in the data cleaning process as our data are born digital and we're not working with paper data entry that then need to be typed up, which of course introduces another human error into the process. But there are challenges too. Although KoBo Toolbox is fairly intuitive, easy to use, and flexible to the changing needs of our team, there is a huge setup cost. Our methodology demands that each field walker and team leader uses their own tablet, requiring 15 tablets across the whole field team. And further to the setup cost, we become reliant on these tablets, particularly in scrambling through maquis and over terraces. These tablets can seem all a bit too flimsy and vulnerable. The pressure point of our whole workflow is technology failure, or even team members just remembering to charge their tablets overnight before they come into the field. There is a workaround to this. When one team member forgot to charge his tablet overnight, or her tablet, I will anonymize that, this team member was able to download KoBo Collect onto their personal mobile phone, and then they could access the data entry forms through a secure link that we sent to them. The workflow is still fairly labor intensive for the GIS and data specialists. The accurate drawing of tracts and walker lines is not really something that we anticipate becoming an automatic or machine-led process. Furthermore, the batch cleaning and linking of tabular and spatial data is something that still happens in our project manually. And in processing and cleaning data offline, which is easier and quicker sometimes than clicking through KoBo's online interface, using a fairly rudimentary island Wi-Fi connection, we have to be conscious of version control and audit trails. We're not yet using an interface like a project GitHub or SourceTree to track version changes, but this is certainly an option for the future. So the first priority to try and address some of the pressure points that we've already identified is to try and address some of the pressure points that we've already identified. We've already automated as many processes as we can, using both ArcGIS repeated processes and R-code, but we continue to develop solutions for automating as much as we can in our methodology. The challenge of automating the track drawing process, for example, seems one step too far. This is a process that requires too much human creativity, critically looking at landscape aerial photographs, leader and walker form data, and the shape of the survey universe, all in combination. One could theoretically take the coordinates of the track walk in the field and transfer them directly to polygon vertices in GIS, but that relies on having very accurate, perhaps at DGPS level, coordinate data with very good signal. And it would also have the effect that the output polygons would invariably have very jagged edges, and they wouldn't look as neat and pretty when we produce plots for presentation like this. We are a reflexive and open project, and we like to involve the whole team at all stages of data generation and interpretation as feasible. At the moment, our workflow has the manipulation of data in the hands of a few specialists. In some senses, this is a black box to some members of the field team. And we would like to consider, without compromising quality, data integrity, or efficiency of the process, how we could put ownership of some more of these steps into team member hands. Might there be more scope, for instance, in exploratory use of working project data by the team on or off season? And as we look towards the future as well, we're committed as a project to the ideas of having our data as clean and open as soon as possible, conforming to standards and models in as widely available format. Our motivation is so that our data set can not only contribute as a methods piece to survey archaeology or to the history of Samos itself, but to look across the wider cultural context of the history of the East Aegean region. We see our survey as one piece in a mosaic of a much wider super-regional history, linking together other surveys, other projects, other data sets from our neighbours. And we believe that the production of clean and formatted data sets in relative efficiency and speed throughout the life cycle of a project is one key to enabling this sort of wider regional history. Thank you very much.